Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. You guys, I am so excited to be here and to be talking about my new obsession, Bridgerton. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you have got to get on this. It's from Netflix. It's Shonda Rhimes, who did, of course, Grey's Anatomy, How to Get Away with Murder. She does everything. And it is fantastic. I highly recommend this. I'm going to be talking about this, so get on it, start watching, because I've only seen the first episode, and I am obsessed. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's get into it. So, Bridgerton, this is the first episode, Diamond of the First Water. So we immediately find out the narrator is Julie Andrews, who I am obsessed with. I love her. Mary Poppins, Sound of Music, she's fantastic. Okay. So we are in London in 1813, and it's the upcoming social season. So pretty quickly, we are introduced to two families. We have the Featheringtons, who we see here. It's Baron Featherington and Baroness Portia Featherington, Philippa, Prudence, and Penelope Featherington. We're also introduced to an exotic cousin, Marina, which we will get into. Then we go over to the Bridgertons. So we find out the husband has passed, leaving Viscountess Bridgerton, Daphne Bridgerton, who seems to be the main character. Anthony is the oldest son. Other kids, but we really don't get to meet them. I didn't even catch their names, so we will get into them because I just don't want to overwhelm everybody with all these names because it's really confusing when you first start off. Okay, let's get into it. So younger sister is yelling for Daphne. So we don't see Daphne quite yet. Apparently the oldest brother is missing. We find out he is off having a fun time against a tree while looking at his watch. But okay, so today is the day. And they say all the marriage-minded misses are presented to the Queen. So they're all going to present themselves in front of Queen Charlotte, who I'm slightly obsessed with, and we'll see why. So, of course, the moms are nervous, the girls are nervous, and it's a big deal, and they'll be escorted and presented for the Queen. Here we get to see Daphne in her carriage, Daphne Bridgerton, and she's full of wonder and excitement, and she thinks today is going to be her big day. So Daphne arrives, as does Anthony, the oldest brother. Of course, he was the one having fun against the tree. He is there to escort his sister since their father has passed and he's the eldest son. That's part of his duty. Here's our first introduction to Queen Charlotte. Intense, right? So they go to introduce themselves, and I love her body language. I love how she's sitting. I love that she has people fanning her. This is fantastic. I think they did such a good job on, the costumes, the settings. It's fantastic. I'm obsessed. So here comes the Featheringtons, right? And they're coming to try to make a good impression on the Queen. Her facial expression says it all. I don't blame the girls. I blame their mother, who is awful. Again, I'm one episode in, but so far she is awful. And unfortunately, one of the daughters, I believe it's Prudence, faints while standing in front of the Queen. Turns out her corset is a bit too tight, so she just keels over in front of the Queen. So then it is time for Daphne to present. So Daphne is obviously nervous behind the scenes, but when she walks in, she holds her head up high. She's very regal and elegant. Everybody's looking at her, and she bows before the Queen. So we see the Queen do something different here, and she actually stands, lifts her head, and is very impressed. And it's just a cool moment. We actually see that the Queen is impressed here with Daphne, and it made her stand up. This is a big deal. Daphne says, as well as the Lady Whistledown says, this is what the women were bred for at this point. They're marriage-minded and making a good impression on the Queen. So soon after the credits roll, we see this young boy running around handing out papers. And this is where we kind of find about Lady Whistledown. So if you haven't seen this yet, I'll tell you, everybody's talking about it like it's Gossip Girl. It basically is. So she writes this paper and kind of tells the goings-on of court and courting and courtship and all that stuff. And it's just interesting. All the ladies read it, and they call it a scandal sheet. So they named Daphne a diamond of the first water, or order. I couldn't really tell what they were saying. So Daphne is obviously pleased, as is her whole family. They're very excited. This is her big coming out moment, so she's getting dressed, and she just knows that, it's her job to find a man, find a suitor, somebody that will help take care of her family, basically. So then it's over to the Featheringtons' house, and this is where we find out about a distant cousin that is coming to stay with them. And let's see, we meet Penelope, who I'm obsessed with. I love her, the youngest daughter. She's so much fun. She is asking to please sit out this season of balls and, courtship and all that. And the other sisters are awful to her and calling her heavy, and they're laughing about this cousin who's coming to stay, and how could she look growing up on a farm, and she has such a small dowry. And in walks this beautiful woman who, just stunning. Everybody's looking at her like, oh crap. She's gorgeous. The mom knows it. She's speechless. It's a hilarious scene. I absolutely loved it. It kind of put everybody in their place. If you look at Penelope, she's kind of smiling too. You guys, this is our first sighting. Let me just tell you, this is where we meet Simon, the Duke. Hello, Simon. He is the most handsome guy. Seriously, I'm dying over this guy. So this is Simon. He's the Duke. This is the first time we're seeing him. We don't know who he is yet. He shows up on a horse and people are calling him Your Grace. We find out he's an eligible Duke. And so he starts talking to this lady, and her name is Lady Danbury. And she is hosting a ball that night, and she is telling him he needs to come. Well, he's saying, listen, I'm just here to get my father's affairs in order. Apparently his father had recently passed, and he asks that he please not have to come because he's just not interested. And she says, I regret to inform you, but your request is denied. So he's forced to come to this ball, and thank goodness. We see a singer on stage. We find out this is Sienna, and what's happening here? Uh-oh, she is the one that is hooking up with Bridgerton, with Anthony, the eldest son. So they're having a relationship, big scandal. They're not married, oh no, but they're having a relationship, and yeah. So we go over, and it is the opening ball. It's the season opening ball, and this is a big deal. He has to escort his sister Daphne to the ball tonight, and he explained that this is his responsibility, of course, since his father passed. We do see the Featheringtons there. I'm obsessed with Penelope. She obviously has a thing for the younger Bridgerton brother. I did not catch his name. They never said it, but he's so cute, and she really has a thing for him. She keeps making eyes at him, but he doesn't seem to notice her too much. Something happens later, but right now he's not really noticing her. It's interesting at the ball, we see these older ladies, the mothers of the eligible daughters, standing up high so they can look down and see what's going on and who's talking to who, and kind of leads to the mystery of who is Lady Whistledown, because it's got to be somebody that can see all this, or at least somebody who's reporting back on everything going on. This is where the narrator says they're all trying to secure a match. They're avoiding the dreadful condition of spinster. So we see interesting stuff going on here. A lot of things are happening. You kind of see the dynamics. And basically, in a nutshell, this is where we learn that Anthony is a dick. The oldest brother, he's really anybody that Daphne seems into, he shoots them down. He's taking his responsibility way too seriously. This is back in the time where women's opinions didn't matter. They didn't, it was just all about marriage, and the brother was taking it way too seriously, and it was kind of disgusting to watch. This is where we see the very handsome Duke of Hastings. Have I said that he's handsome? He's so handsome. He arrives, and immediately the Featheringtons spot him, and Mom is ushering her daughters over to talk to him. And before you know it, there's a swarm of eligible ladies around him, and he's just not at all comfortable. He's not into it, and it's a funny scene where you can just tell this is just not his thing. Meanwhile, Daphne is standing with her brother. She says she's going to go get a drink. And while she goes to get a drink, we see this very creepy man approach. Okay. So this man is Nigel. I'm probably going to say his last name wrong. Bearbrook. Really gives me the creeps. We find out, he says he was amused by her when he was a schoolboy. And she says, and I was 5. Ugh. He basically is chasing her down. She's trying to get away from him because he's so creepy. And when she's in her haste, she accidentally bumps into the Duke. And this is where Duke of Hastings, he says, oh, you've accosted me on purpose. You're trying to arrange an introduction. And what's funny is she has no idea who he is. So he's thinking she's doing this on purpose. And she's like, who are you? Which I'm thinking, hello, how does everybody else know who he is, but you don't? He's so good looking. How do you not spot him? So it's interesting because when she's talking to him, the oldest brother, again, that dickhead Anthony, walks up, and it turns out they knew each other from the days at Oxford. So she's instantly turned off because she knows what her brother is like, and she's not interested in a man who would be like that. So she's like kind of challenging him, and he seems intrigued by her. She walks away from him, from the Duke, and he watches her, and she kind of glances back at him too. So it's interesting to see. It's obviously setting the stage. We see people wanting to dance with Daphne, and the idiot brother is saying she should leave them wanting more and that they should leave. So Daphne wakes up, and she's just so happy and excited. She expects, after such a good showing at the ball the night before, that many men will be there to call on her and basically court her, start the process. And she is just expecting all these men to come. And the same thing we see is happening over at Featherington House. Everybody's, excited. They expect that many men will be there to talk to them. So this gets interesting because, we saw that Marina, who was dancing with a lot of men, and all of a sudden all these men show up, and they're for Marina. So, of course, the Featherington mom is not happy at all about this. So we see Lord Bridgerton. He is sitting down because, again, this is the brother, Anthony. He's sitting down and trying to basically, I don't know how else to say, he's being a cock block. He's blocking anybody that wants to call for Daphne. And the voiceover is talking about how many men are calling on Miss Marina Thompson. So then we see that Lady Whistledown is starting to second guess the height of the amount of praise for Daphne. And she says the queen despises more than anything being wrong. So again, the whole idea is the queen has praised this Daphne, and she wasn't exactly the belle of the ball. Now, was it her fault? Maybe. Was it her brother's fault? Yeah, definitely. So the queen is pissed reading this. We see the drawing room is empty at the Bridgerton house. Meanwhile, at the Featherton house, they're all there to talk to Marina. Obviously makes Baroness Featherington very upset. So things go from bad to worse for Daphne, because the only guy coming to call on her is that older guy, that Nigel Bearbrook. He's the worst. He's so creepy. Even her sister is trying to hang back and look out for her and not make it where she doesn't have to talk to Nigel. So he comes, and Daphne is less than enthusiastic about it. And she's so bummed out, and he's saying they were destined for each other. Ugh. Meanwhile, we see all these men still calling on Marina. Mom is encouraging the men to say goodbye, and on their way out, maybe talk to her daughters a little bit. Okay, so then we see Daphne, and she's very upset about what Lady Whistledown has written about her, and it's making her less attractive with the men. She's also upset with her brother for scaring all the suitors away. She says he has no idea what it is to be a woman, and that she has no other value if she's unable to find a husband, she'd be worthless. And he says she's a Bridgerton, and she says it would be easier if she were not. Okay, so then we go over the Duke of Hastings' palatial castle estate, whatever it is, it's gorgeous. And he has announced that he's decided to stay on in town and that he also has no plans of ever marrying. And so that's interesting. That comes up in a little bit. So from there we go over to the men's club where we see Anthony and he's having a drink with the Duke, and basically Colin Bridgerton is trying to sweep Marina off her feet. So Colin must be the hair guy. I guess I did take notes on his name. And we find out that, Penelope is kind of upset by this because she seems to have a thing for him. What's weird here is while Marina is talking to these men, Lord Featherington keeps staring at Marina. So I have a really bad feeling something creepy is happening, and it really freaks me out, and I'm scared of where we're going with the storyline. So then we go back over to the Bridgerton house, and we find out Daphne has a caller again, and unfortunately it is Nigel. Ugh, so creepy. I literally just call him creepy guy in my notes. We find out there's going to be another ball, and this is where, Daphne walks in with her mother, and Lady Danbury calls her over to talk to her and to the Queen. We also see Nigel there. Good God, why won't this guy go away? I realize I called this one a ball. It seems to be more of an opera event. And this is where Lady Danbury invites Daphne and her mother to come sit in her personal box so they can watch the singing. Well, okay, so they start talking, this Lady Danbury and Daphne's mom. And they're talking about how the Queen says Daphne made quite an impression and it was just too brief. And the ball host, I call her the ball host, Lady Danbury is trying to make a match between Daphne and the Duke. And she kind of feeds, Lady Bridgerton the information. Like, he really is a fan of gooseberry pie. Have him over, see what happens between the two of them. She's trying to make a match. So then we go over to Marina, and we see a brief scene that is not explained in this moment. It does come up later. But again, there's this weird storyline going on here that something's going on. I don't know who with. But she's staring at her sheets frantically. Again, I'll go into this in a little bit. Okay, so then we go to dinner. It seems to be at the Bridgerton house. So everybody's sitting around and having dinner, and who's sitting next to each other? The Duke and Daphne. So they're sitting together, and everybody is discussing the Whistledown paper. They're all trying to figure out who the writer is, and the Duke is just... he seems to like Daphne, but he plays he's just very egotistical when he talks to her, and it rubs her the wrong way. He says things like she should find herself lucky to be seated beside him. But she says, how could anyone ever have anything but a smile when seated beside a Duke? But she says it in such a way like, you're so full of yourself, I'm not into this. She brings up his reputation. She ends up calling him arrogant. And they assure each other that they are not interested in each other. We'll see about that. The oldest brother, Anthony, seems very pissed about the match. So he's sitting in the office, working on the books or something, and Mom comes in and says the Duke will be joining us tomorrow. And he starts talking about responsibility, and Mom says, what do you know of responsibility? And she basically lets him know, listen, I know you've been banging that opera singer. You're the oldest son. It's your responsibility to take care of this house and to marry and all this stuff. And Mom basically puts it in perspective and says Daphne is terrified of the future that awaits her if the brother continues to get in her way. And are you an older brother or are you the man of the house? And Mom ends up stalking off. So then the next day we see this brother Anthony in bed with that soprano singer. Her name is Sienna. And they seem to really like each other, but he says, I cannot see you anymore. And he says he's doing what's necessary. She's very upset and said he would always protect her and care for her. And now what shall I do? And he says, you shall leave. He's such a dick. Oh, he's the worst. Okay. So then we see everybody, especially the Bridgertons, reading the Whistledown paper, talking about Daphne and her fall from grace and this damning scandal that nobody's coming to call on her. And so it's making her appear less attractive to everybody. So she's taking it very seriously, as do they all. We go over to the Feathertons. This is where we see more that Penelope is into that younger Bridgerton brother, the non-dickhead. And so they go to this ball, right? And we see that Daphne arrives, the mom arrives, and again, the Featherton here, okay, sorry, I'm saying that wrong. The Bridgerton brother is talking to Penelope, and this beautiful girl comes up, tries to interrupt, and spills her drink on Penelope. But this Featherton, unlike the older, I keep saying Featherton, this Bridgerton, unlike the older one who's a dick, is very sweet about it. And he ignores the pretty girl and asks Penelope to dance. So this makes her day. She seems to be into him. And I think that's really a sweet scene. The pretty girl is really pissed, and it's kind of funny to watch. So the Duke ends up arriving, and he and Daphne lock eyes, and how can you not? He's so cute. So then we're back at the Featheringtons' house, okay, and we see this housekeeper doing the laundry, and she's making a strange face, just like Marina did with her sheets. And I could not figure out what the heck was going on, and I thought maybe it was like a sex thing. They could tell that she was having sex. I don't know, something like that. Nope, oh, God, it's so creepy. We're going to I forgot. It veers away from that for a minute, so we'll go back to it. I hate that storyline. Okay, meanwhile, we see, what is it? They're lighting the lights, and Daphne's under the lights. Her brother approaches and says this horrible thing that basically he's like, I think you should go for a match. She's excited to hear this because he's finally lightening up on her, and he says it should be Nigel Bearbrook, that awful older guy that's been basically stalking her. So of course she's upset, and she says she will not hear of this. So she runs away, and I can't blame her there. Her brother is the worst. Okay, so here is the creepy story over the Featherington house that I still cannot figure out, and I don't know if I want to know what's going on. Baroness goes into Marina's room and says, it's been over a month since your arrival, and you haven't bled yet. And says that she's happy to have a reason to dispense with Marina. And when Lord Featherington hears about this, and when your own father hears about this, and she trails off, and it's so creepy. So basically, she assumes Marina is pregnant and that nobody will want her, and she's happy to throw her out of the house because, again, she's more beautiful than her daughters, attracting more attention. Marina is saying, please, and the lady says, do you know who the father is? Marina says, you'll never understand. Do you think I wanted to come be around you people? You're so out of touch. And I really wonder, is her husband the father? What am I missing here? Featherton slaps her, and that's the end of the scene. Okay, so then back to Daphne. She's in the garden, and she's upset with her brother over this whole thing, this Nigel thing. And who happens upon her? Freaking Nigel. I hate this guy. And he's being all creepy, and she finally just says, I will never marry you. And he says, no one wants you. And he starts to get physical with her and is basically trying to assault her. It's awful. And he grabs on her, and she punches the crap out of him. It's amazing. Knocks him out, knocks him flying. Just then the Duke runs up and sees what happened, and he says that he's impressed that she was able to knock him out. Nigel wakes up and says, marry me, Miss Bridgerton. He's like half out of it. And the Duke says, you can't possibly be thinking of marrying him. And she says she might not have an alternative. She says that she doesn't have the privilege of declaring she does not wish to marry. Again, talking about that earlier scene I mentioned where he says he won't marry. and Lady Whistledown reported on it. Duke realizes that they're both having problems, and, it has to do with the scandal and the gossip of Lady Whistledown, and he says that there is an answer. He comes up with this plan that they could form an attachment, and he says with her on his arm, everyone will leave him alone, and all the suitors will look at her because they'll think she's attached and they'll want her more. So he thinks that it's a good idea for them to form this attachment. So it's interesting because we go back and forth between the garden having this conversation and the moment where they actually walk out together. And he's saying with her on his arm, everyone will leave him alone. And again, all the suitors will want her more. It makes him unavailable and it makes her more desirable. So we see them walk out together under the fireworks, hand in hand, and he's telling her that we need to appear madly in love. And they have a very charged moment together where they're making eye contact and they're moving in closer, and the fireworks are going off. And he's telling her they should appear madly in love, and says, if you do not wish to marry me and I do not wish to marry you, what is there to lose? So we see them dance together, and her mom is watching approvingly, as does Lady Danbury, the one whose idea was to match them together. Everybody's watching them dance. And the final scene, we see Whistledown writing that it's remarkable that Daphne and Duke have made a match, and that she will figure out the details of how it all went down. So definitely sets us up for an excellent season. I cannot wait to see what happens. I am rooting for them. Such a good show. I can't wait to get more into this. I can't wait to watch more episodes. So well written. I hear it's based on books, so I do plan on going to read the books after this, but now that I've started, I can't stop, so I will be jumping into the next episode. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my recap. I love the show. I welcome all your comments. Leave them below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Again, I found it on Netflix, so watch it there. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Check out all my other shows. I'm recapping all kinds of stuff right now. This week might be weird because of New Year's, but I'll try to put out some content. And yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. And I will talk to you soon. Take care of yourself. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.